All right, that is going. Okay, we are set here. So, of course, where we left off, you guys were taking a short rest basically up on the rocky bluff after the Harpies had attempted to interrupt Parthios' funerary rites. The priestesses, essentially, the Miotau priestesses, had already started walking down before your rest began. Norok saw down at the base of the mountain. You guys are up high in the Durain Peaks, but a few hours inside the Durain Peaks. But far below, down in the kind of causeway almost, but the grassy area, the Badlands area, between the Caludoran Sea and the mountains where you guys are, he saw the chain of dogs out there, the refugee caravan with the crowblinders, and not far behind them was a Vabian force. He presumed a Vabian force, anyways, heading towards them, and that's where we left off. So, with that, I gotta change that real quick. I really need to get my actual desk back in here. Okay. The walk back down the Durain Peaks towards Morvok is pretty ominous. Storm clouds are beginning to gather above. They're beginning to blow over the mountains. There's no rain yet, but the clouds are really dark and bubbling. It looks like once it starts, it's going to be a pretty heavy downpour. If Arteme, actually all three of you make a nature check for me. Your DCs are going to be a little bit different based on your history. So Arteme, Norok, and Sarah, all three of you would make nature checks, please.
Yeah, I don't know what nature is.
Well, if you spend your whole life growing up inside reading books, then you probably wouldn't learn about it. All three of you, or sorry, Sarah and Noak both failed. Arteme, it's something that stands out as a little bit odd to you, specifically because you're being, of course, very familiar with the natural world. You know that storm clouds usually form over the top of the ocean or a sea or any body of water, and then they blow out over the mountains. Basically, it's kind of a vacuum, that low pressure and high pressure system. That's how that works. So usually you would expect the clouds to be coming from the west, where the sea is, and blowing up towards you and then over the mountains. But these aren't. They're coming from behind the mountains, basically, and coming your direction or towards the sea. It's not completely unheard of, but it's certainly strange as far as natural phenomena is concerned. It does happen, but the kinds of environments it would take to create that are a little bit strange. So it stands out to you being a little bit weird. Not alarming, but weird. But you guys kind of making your way down the mountain back towards Morvok, towards the Miotau town. You guys reach the last kind of narrow cliff path where you can finally see the town. And you see the six white-garbed Miotau priestesses, the ones that performed that funerary rite for Parthios, have just entered that little yurt that you saw them preparing in earlier. But noticing that first, just because the white kind of draws your eyes, you look around the town, though, and you notice that the town is almost completely empty otherwise. You see some calves and some elderly Miotau that are gathered along the palisade wall on the far side, basically the road out of town, essentially. A lot of them are gathered up on that raised platform that are waving and cheering. And then on the other side of that wall, because as high up as you guys are, you can actually see, over that wall, there are hundreds and hundreds of Miotau, bulls and cows alike, that are milling around, running, back and forth. Looks like they're, moving bundles of supplies, that kind of thing, from one place to another, loading crates, things like that, into heavy wagons. The wagons don't appear to be hitched to anything, but basically kind of loading up wagons and preparing and beginning to form up. It looks like that the mercenary army is preparing to go to war. You guys finish your way down the narrow cliff path to the town, and what is it you guys wish to do?
I'm gonna check and see if Doros is at the forge.
Okay. Basically the forge isn't that far from the cliff place that you're coming from, and even from basically where you're coming through the palisade wall that leads up into the cliffs. You can see that there's no one at the forge. In fact, actually, the forge there's nobody there, and there's still tools and everything, but it seems like the better tools probably were taken. Most of the ones that are left behind are a little more beaten up and probably not necessarily broken, but on their last legs, that kind of stuff. Like, most of the better tools seem to be missing, and the forges themselves are burning low, like the embers are beginning to cool.
And if I look around, I don't see Vulcan sitting around, right?
No.
Okay, then I am going to rejoin the ladies.
Okay. What are you guys doing?
Well, looks like they're getting ready to leave. So you guys want to? Are we going with them?
That would be up to Nora, because didn't you want to find out if the forgeman was going to either decide whether he was going to wait with the sword or go?
I'm assuming he's probably left with the team since he's not here, but I guess we could see if there's anybody in town and ask them if they know if Noro's left or not with the army.
Sure. I mean, around you, you don't see. There's almost no one around. Like everybody seems to be pretty much on the wall. If you, the inside of the wall, in fact, when you guys first approached that same wall, the guards were on the inside of it, and that's where all these people are standing. Basically, this raised platform where they can see over the wall and potentially use it for cover if there were attackers or anything of that sort. And that's where the guards were when you came up to the wall initially. But standing on that wall are most of the children, the calves, and then some of the elderly and so on. And they're all kind of up there and cheering and waving and that kind of stuff out towards the army, which is just outside the gate. But when you look that direction, you do see that there are a few that are still inside the wall, just along the road, basically. And looking over there, you do see the shaman. You see Doros' brother, the shaman. It looks like he's got a bunch of crates in front of him, and he keeps opening them and looking inside and then closing that, going to the next one. He's kind of marking something on a little tablet, like maybe he's counting them or something of that sort.
Okay, I'll go over and check with him and ask him if he knows if Doros left with the group or not.
He nods. He says, "Well, it's good to see you made it back down. That's no surprise. It can be a little risky up there, but we don't usually have much difficulty. But as far as Doros, he will be traveling with a caravan here."
Okay.
He says he wanted me to tell you though, after Doros cut away the cursed tainted Vesemir, there wasn't a lot of metal remaining, and with what's left, I mean, he can still make you a pretty fantastic weapon, but it'll probably be something like I thought initially, probably something like a Miotau Warmatic, something of that sort, if you like that idea.
That's fine. Would he be able to infuse that on top of essentially like coat another weapon with it, like an axe blade?
You mean the metal that was cut away?
Yeah, or reforge an axe head, or put it.
Well, that's what he would be
head.
with the metal that remains. That's what he'll be making essentially. I mean, a Warmatic for us is a big, heavy weapon certainly, but with your stature that'd be fine. Basically what you're thinking of, or what you would imagine here, is a warhammer on one side with an axe blade on the other. So like kind of like where you'd have a battle axe where there's two blades on one on either side. Instead of that, it's one side is a hammer, which is a counterbalance, and the other side is an axe blade.
Okay, because I actually wasn't familiar exactly with what a matic is. So
well, technically,
that'd be fine.
Technically, a Warmatic in history is a hammer on one side and kind of it is a sharp blade on the other side of it, kind of like a pick. Yeah, a little. It's usually it's a little bit more like a scythe blade almost. Like it's a wide, sharp, long like nose, like a bird beak almost. Is kind of the shape of it. But instead, for them, it's an axe blade on one side and a hammer on the other.
Okay.
And he says, with your strength and stature, though, since you're kind of similar to our own people, I mean, you'll probably even be able to throw it if you wanted to.
That actually sounds great.
He says, and plus, I mean, with this, all things in consideration here, you'll have the added boon of releasing whatever enchantments had been locked behind that enveloping curse as well.
Can't wait to find out what that is. All right, well, thank you for all your help. Appreciate it.
He nods. He says, Doros will be among our warriors in this, upcoming inevitable battle here, but he is a seasoned and intelligent fighter. I mean, once Astarte gets our forces and yours safely to that old Mephuin ruin, Doros and his helpers will set up the Warforge, and then he can get to work. So, once we're there, it'll probably be a day or two, and then you should have your relic back.
All right.
He says, I imagine you guys are pretty tired after this morning, so I'll just tell you, Astarte has ordered us on the move 5 hours from now, as soon as the supply wagons are loaded. So we'll be marching through the night to intercept your crowblinders, and my ravens have been watching the Vabiants nip at their retreating refugees in small skirmishes, but it looks like they're going to be bolstering for a heavy assault, so Astarte doesn't want to risk any delay. You all had, a pretty arduous challenge this morning, of course. Just being completely honest, my work wasn't quite as hard as yours. I just pretty much stood up on the rock and threw things, but if you're going to rest, now's the time. I'll make space in a couple of wagons. You can rest there, or you guys can head back to the Outsiders Tavern. I'm sure Marika will have beds for you, but it's up to you.
Wagons are fine with me. Stay on the front line.
Yeah, me too.
Sure.
That's right with you guys. Okay.
Okay. I will tell you guys too that they'll be leaving in 5 hours, and 5 hours is not enough time for a long rest. So it would be, if you're in the wagons, it means that while they're marching, you guys are going to be sleeping in the wagons for a couple of hours, which that's up to you guys. On basically you make a not memory, I guess probably just intelligence check on shit. The thing is, like you probably roll it with disadvantage because of exhaustion, but this is something that you probably would know. Go ahead and make an intelligence check, and the DC is just going to be really low. But roll it. Click on advantage so that it's rolled as a flat roll and not exhaustion.
Okay.
This is a memory thing, so exhaustion wouldn't really affect this.
Check.
Yeah, intelligence check,
Okay.
but click advantage first. Never mind. I would say maybe you're just too tired after the whole day with the challenges this morning, and then because remember all this is still the same day. But those challenges this morning, and then fighting off the harpies to keep Parthios' body from being taken. You're just not really focused on it. But we'll just leave it at that.
Okay.
So he's got a couple of wagons that are outside. There's nothing hitched to it yet, but you guys are welcome to hop inside and just take a rest there. You'll be kind of sleeping while the Miotau are loading boxes and all that kind of stuff. So that's the part I was talking about. Your characters don't recognize this. You know what? I would say that it's only fair because of how awkward it would be. Go ahead and Arteme and Sarah can go ahead and make rolls as well. Norak was going to make it because he would know that the Miotau would find that somewhat disrespectful. But because of how awkward the situation is, Arteme and Sarah would... Sarah with disadvantage because she's noble and wouldn't give a shit. And Arteme with a normal roll. Just flat intelligence, please.
Oh, yeah. I'm hopping in one of those bad boys.
Well, it's you dropped a 7. That still wouldn't have been enough anyway.
I'm looking for the thing.
Intelligence, just the top of your character sheet, just the...
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Actions.
A check, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
top one.
Wrong.
One that says C. Intelligence is the 4th. There you go.
Yeah, I just moved my page instead.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, I mean, Arteme would recognize that this is a little bit, not rude necessarily, but I would say that you could certainly temper it with the understanding that, one, you guys have, had battles today, and they necessarily, most of these guys haven't, of course, but also on top of that, you are essentially, I mean, you guys aren't personally, but you guys have essentially hired them to do this work anyway. So I'll leave it to you guys what you choose to do with that information, but, well, at least Arteme has figured that out, so whether Arteme says anything about it or not is up to you guys. But I will tell you, too, that being tired for, what you're basically heading into war is probably not a good idea either.
So it's basically either go back to the motel and then try and catch up to the caravan.
Well,
or...
you can rest either at the Outsiders Tavern. Marika will have beds for you there anyways. You'd probably get better rest there, but you would still only be sleeping 5 hours, then running to catch up with the caravan, which would not be enough for a long rest. So you'd essentially have a short rest if you did it that way, or a long rest if you stay in the... okay, I see what you're saying. Are you saying sleep at the motel so that you're not, like, embarrassed, or not being rude, basically, by sleeping while they're loading boxes?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay. I mean, if that's how you wanted to handle it, obviously you need to tell Sarah and Norak the same. But you could sleep there for 5 hours, run and just hop in wagons, and then sleep for another couple hours. You wouldn't need to; you'd be rested by then anyway for Arteme. But Norak and Sarah could sleep a little bit longer in the wagons on the trip there, without being kind of just laying there while boxes are being loaded around you.
Mm-hmm.
So what are you guys doing?
That's
Sounds
fine with me.
Okay. So Arteme, you tell them, it'd be a little awkward to just lay there while they're doing that. All right. So you guys head back to the Outsiders Rest then. You do find Marika's the only one there. And in fact, she's the only, I would say that you've seen, she's the only, like, potentially fighting age woman or man, male or female, of these of the Miotao that is still like essentially at her post, like doing her job. But she's there when you guys enter. She just looks up at you. She says, "Oh, I thought you would be, preparing to leave with them. Are you guys going to be staying?"
No, we're going to be going. We just need to rest for a little bit.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's empty right now, so you can head on up. I mean, there's beds. For you little folk, the 2 rooms at the end are the easiest ones. Big guy, you can really go to any of the rest of them.
Okay. Thank you.
She just nods and goes back to swiping. She's wiping down the bar. You guys head up and take your rest.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and apply the long rest now, even though technically it won't be finished for a little bit longer, because you'll be, essentially, assuming that's what you're doing, you're going to get up in 5 hours and head out to join the caravan.
Yes.
All right. Then in that case, I'm going to go ahead and remove the frenzy, or the waning frenzy as well. That should come off automatically. I need to change that so that it disappears after a rest. Probably, let me make a note of that actually so I don't forget. Oh, that's that one that keeps playing forever, isn't it? Okay, it stopped. Cool. No, it didn't stop. There we go. So you guys tuck in. Hang on 1 second.
So I don't see anything looking around.
No.
All right, if I get up and look out my door, do I see anything?
Make a perception check. Well, yeah, just a regular perception check. I'll just tell you here, obviously, because Norok and Arteme can't act on this information anyways. It is not late enough yet. This is basically, by the time this happens, it would be probably 6 o'clock or so. And the sun is setting in the east. Well, it would set in the east, which means it's going to be below the peaks, which means that it's basically the sun is already set for all kind of functional purposes, only because the horizon is so high, because you're basically, at the foot of some mountains right now, or near the foot. But for some reason, the shadows seem a lot denser than they should, and certainly more dense than they did when you first came in, even though it's not actually nighttime yet. So the shadows seem very dense, but looking around, you aren't able to spot any particular source beyond just that there's a certain vitality to the shadows.
And I don't hear anything.
No. You guys are in separate. Well, okay. So Becky knows this, and Becky figured this out.
Yeah.
Obviously, Sarah doesn't, and because you're not in the same room at the moment, then you're not hearing or seeing anything else beyond that.
Okay.
But it feels like there's something alive in the shadows. You just can't find it.
Okay, she would probably at least go crack open doors just to check on Norok and Arteme, just
Okay.
to see if they're still there.
Norok and Arteme, did you guys lock your doors or no?
I wouldn't have thought to, so no.
I would have.
Okay. Well, that's what you find then. So you crack open Norok's door and see him probably snoring loudly, because he was exhausted. He had his exhaustion, so he's probably flat on his back snoring really loud. But other than that, he seems perfectly normal. And you check Arteme's door, and the door's locked.
Alright, well, then I guess I'll go back she saw Norok was fine, she would assume Arteme would be fine.
Yeah, you didn't hear anything, like there wasn't any disturbance or noise or anything like that. It was just that kind of creeping, like hair standing up on the back of your neck kind of feeling.
Or at least try to go back to bed.
For that, actually, just because of how unnerving that has been, especially after your discovery earlier in the day. You remember what discovery I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Okay. Especially after that, I would say that it would be extra difficult, and you only fell asleep initially because of how long the day had already been. Because remember, this is early in the day. You guys you guys were trying to go to sleep at like 1:15 in the afternoon, maybe 2 o'clock actually, because it took you a little bit of time to walk back down the mountain. So 2 o'clock in the afternoon, you're trying to take a nap essentially for 8 hours. So that would already be difficult, coupled with the kind of potentially scary sight that you got earlier. Make a Constitution check on Josera.
It's not a 1.
It's not a 1, but it's not much better. So I would say you're going to get most of your rest, but you won't get it all the way back. So here's what you're going to be left with. You know what? I'm going to leave that one. So you're left there.
Okay.
It's not too punishing because you did still get, at this point, you probably got 4.5 hours or so, which isn't great. You're not fully recovered basically. So did you see what I changed?
Yeah, I saw.
Okay, all right. So you're not going to be incapacitated. You're going to be okay. It's just not your full invigoration. I thought I changed the healing potions back. Did I not? Let me see. I have a note here of how many you guys had. Yeah, Sarah had 0.
Back.
Okay, yeah, we did. Yeah. Sarah just had 0, that's why. Okay, cool.
Yeah, because I've got the ring.
Yeah, cool. You actually still have that Immateria as well. Did you guys ever... Not... Oh, shit. Well, you saw that it was called Immateria. Did you guys ever actually identify that? I forget. Because Sarah asked Becky asked a couple of times if you guys had things to identify, and I forgot to bring it up for you guys. Did you ever, actually figure out what it is?
I don't think so.
Do you remember what I'm talking about?
I'm not sure.
Fox, do you remember?
No.
At the trading post, when you guys found that dark steel lockbox and you opened it up, do you remember? There was a jar in there of this kind of paste, this lotion-y kind of a stuff.
Yeah.
And then there was a recipe called Immateria that was underneath it.
Oh, no, I don't think we ever actually figured.
Okay. It would have potentially kind of bitten into your rest time anyways. Would Sarah have spent the time to try to look it over?
Well, after waking up and probably not being able to fall back asleep, I probably would have looked at it then.
That's fair. Where is it? Was it put in the bag of holding? Or was somebody carrying it?
No.
Who has the box? Do you guys remember? Did you put the box in the bag?
I had grabbed the box initially, but I don't remember if we put it in the bag or not. Let's see.
I'll check the party inventory real quick. It is not there. There needs to be a search, because there's basically there's a whole thing I can look at everybody's inventory all at once, but I can't search it, so I can't tell. The box is in the bag of holding, and let me look for the little jar. Oh, you guys still have some gems to get rid of too? Not much. It just looks like, oh, 1 tiger's eye. A small mirror that you guys can sell. You guys have a couple of things left to still get rid of if you wanted to.
That mirror was just a standard mirror. There wasn't anything too special about it, right?
Yeah, it's just a piece of art. Yeah.
Then what I'm going to do if the team doesn't object is I'm going to take it and give it to the little calf girl, my little friend. As a gift.
She wasn't there when you guys saw Marika. Oh, you guys never got her name, of course, but
Actually, I think I did. I just don't remember what it was. I asked what her name was. I just don't remember what it was.
The
We
innkeeper?
introduced ourselves. The little girl.
Yeah, the little girl. Yes, her name is Fazra. You got her name.
Yeah.
But the
Okay,
innkeeper.
but I'll leave it with her mom though.
Okay.
Since she's not there, so. Say it's for the little one. Say it's for Bazzer.
She gives you a big, wide cow grin and tells you that is so sweet. She will be so excited. You're her favorite champion.
I try. Thank you.
She says she's supposed to be up on the wall, so on your way out, if you see her, give her a big wave, because she'll be so happy to see that you're still wearing that necklace.
Will do. Thank you.
I found the jar. That jar is in the bag of holding. So Sarah,
Oh, okay.
So Arteme has the bag. The bag is behind that locked door.
All right.
So much for that. Are you just, killing time then until everybody gets up? You only have probably an hour or so before everybody wakes up, so. Was that it, Becky? You doing anything else?
Oh, yeah. No, that's it.
Okay. All right. Then time comes. There isn't really, like, there's no bell ringing or anything of that sort, but there's just enough kind of ambient noise of you didn't get a count yet, but all of the soldiers outside making noise, kind of preparing to get ready to go, because it's obvious that it's about to start, and that's enough to wake you, or certainly enough to at least alert Sarah, who could then knock on the doors and stir Norok out of his snoring slumber. But you guys are awake and heading down to the group that is obviously preparing to leave. Whoops, I went to the wrong page here. There we go.
And Seraphina is going to use the mage hand.
To do what?
Oh,
okay.
glove.
For that. Okay, I gotcha. Okay, I'll keep that in mind. All right. Then, as you guys are making, as soon as you've exited the Outsiders Tavern there, you are, like, you heard it from the outside anyway. Sarah, you would have noticed this, of course, even from the inside, because of how loud it was. Whoops. Because of how loud that was. But the downpour has started. It is exceptionally loud, and just a very heavy rain. Even knowing that they were coming, this downpour is kind of a surprise. It's just heavy buckets of water pouring out of the sky. The clouds are blackening to the point where you're not even sure if you would notice when the sun actually goes down. Just for how dense the rain is, and of course, like I said, the sun being on the eastern side of the mountain anyway. But you make your way to the palisade there. You do see Fazra up on the wall, G. She doesn't notice you. She's up and cheering, like jumping, because she can't see over the top of the palisade from the spot that she's at. So she keeps having to jump to look out. So it just looks like she's just bouncing up and down. But through the gate, you can see, or through the opening, you can see the mercenary Miaotao army appears just unperturbed by this rain. It is a pretty interesting and inspiring sight, though. There's you estimate about 3,000 Miaotao warriors that are formed up along this rocky sloped road that leads down outside of Morvok. They're organized in big square-shaped squads of about 20 or so, and each of those are grouped into companies of 6 squads, and each of those are formed into fists and are all just rank and file. And it's a little bit surprising, specifically because, one, Yogg culture is not like this at all. This is not that you would never get an organized army like this out of the Yogg, no matter how many you had. Everybody would be kind of doing their own thing. But also, having spent a little time here, the lifestyle and culture of the Miaotao you've experienced thus far wouldn't really lead you to expect such a rigid organization and structure for these people. But the kind of intimidating force that's in front of you makes it quite clear how serious these people take their contracts. Their mercenary contracts, and far at the head of the army, basically the only thing that's actually in the road, because all these groups are on either side of the road, left and right, but the only thing that's actually in the road, at the very far end of the army, so it's quite a ways away actually, you hear a horn blast, and you see Astarte is atop this rolling tower that is being pulled by 2 large Miaotao bulls. So two of the people are pulling this large tower. They probably wouldn't use aurochs, right? I mean, it makes more sense, of course, they would just pull it themselves, because they're not going to enslave an animal that's so akin to themselves. But at the echoing of this horn blast, the Miaotao all snort out a loud bellowing cheer, and the wheels of this big war machine begin to kind of roll on down the road. So what are you guys doing? You still need to, presuming you want that long rest, you still need to hop in a wagon and try to sleep the rest of the way.
Alright, I'm going to wave at Bazzer on the way and then see if I can sneak into a wagon.
Okay. She looks elated to see you, and is like, as soon as she sees you, you're already on the other side of the wall and waving at her. She is grabbing onto the arm of a Miotao that's standing next to her, and is trying to climb her way up so that she can like hold up and actually wave and see without having to jump up and down, and is just waving ecstatically, just a big smile on her face.
Alright. Cool.
But the wagons that the shaman, who you never asked the name of, you see that the ones that he had pointed out for you are open. There's some boxes in it, but there's enough room for you guys to hop in. Probably Norak by himself, and Sarah and Arteme in the other.
Okay.
Arteme, you were able to get enough with your trance to be able to like already have your rest. So you don't really have to sleep. It's up to you if you're going to or what you're going to do at the time. Sarah already failed at trying to sleep anyways, so probably isn't going to get much more rest, and hence the penalty that I gave you. But I mean, that's, you're still, you're not going to be incapacitated. Like I said, you still have most of your function left. So Norak just going to hop in and conk back out again. Okay. Sarah and Arteme, are you guys doing anything for this trip as this, marching begins around you?
Yeah, I'm gonna ask her for that jar, so I could try to identify it.
The jar and the recipe thing?
Well, do I need the recipe or just the jar?
I don't know.
Take them both. I guess it can't hurt.
Okay. So, Fox, you pull out the dark steel box and hand it over. Sarah, roll an Arcana check. We'll start with that first. You basically, you didn't have too much time to check it when you guys were on the road by the trading post. So now that you kind of have, a free minute to look it over, maybe you'll do a little better. Oh, okay. So there's a label on the front of the jar, and it's kind of a hastily drawn script, but it says Immateria on the jar, which does match the recipe. The recipe says Immateria. But in opening the jar, and you kind of pull just the tiniest bit of it out, you tell me which hand you would use for that. Because you're right-handed, but would you be using your left hand to try to pull that out?
Yeah, probably.
Okay. I figured so. I just wanted to give you the opportunity of how you wanted to handle it. You did get all your sorcery points back, by the way, but this color, you can't see them. Let me go with a little better color. Yeah, that'll work fine. Well, it's kind of ugly, but it'll work. Now you can at least see your sorcery points, because otherwise they're so dark you can't actually read the slots. What you find in there, though, after holding that open and let me grab this stupid thing. I gotta find that character sheet here. There it is. Let me share it to you so you can see what it does. Uh-oh. I thought I had the notes in there. I guess I didn't. Let me grab it real quick and I'll paste it into Discord or something for you.
Okay.
I thought I had it in the item, but I guess I didn't. Do. There you go. I think you should be able to see that spell on your own too. Let me know if you can't, and I'll share the spell data for you.
Becky characters.
What?
There you go. I was just telling her on the Discord thing. I can see her screen where that post was.
Yeah, I dropped it in the Becky characters channel.
I'm not reading it though, so I'm not sure what it is. But I'm just letting you know. I was letting her.
All good. I mean, you wouldn't try to meta it anyways, so.
Of course not. So.
Fox would, because we know she's kind of a cheater, but you
Well,
wouldn't.
Canadian
What?
cheat. So.
What is that? What is the etherealness?
Well, that's what I'm saying. So, like, you should be, if you go to your spells in Fantasy Grounds, you should be able to see it. But if you can't, let me know and I'll share you the spell so you can actually go over the data. I had to remove those. You guys still have a bunch of things in here that you, at some point, would want to do something with. Like, you still have Masedsu's stuff, because all he took from you was the fangs. So you still have the rod and the scroll of rebirth and the scroll of augury, which Arteme could, once you get the materials to do so, you could transfer that spell into your ritual book and not have to worry about losing it. Some gems to get rid of. You have that Chris knife still. Book from the history of the kings of Abbey. And yeah, couple other items.
That book might be a good read.
Oops, sorry, dog. Yeah. I mean, that's something you could do during rests and that kind of thing too. That's something that would be useful for you guys to do just for character development as well. Is think on what your characters do when there's downtime. Especially if you're not interested really in exploring any kind of a individual backstory for them, that's totally fine. I mean, obviously there are, let's say, narrative stories that are already occurring for you guys anyways. So you don't really how much you want to participate in kind of your own parts of your backstory is up to you. And an easy way to kind of start those is when there is downtime. Essentially, what is your character choosing to do with downtime? Especially, it doesn't have to just be sleeping, but whatever you guys choose to do. So, anyways, did you find the spell, Becky?
Yeah, I'm reading it right now.
Okay. While Becky is doing that, actually, we'll hold on a minute. One note on that too, Becky. I'll send it to you real quick here. The wagons you guys are in are covered, by the way. None of the rest of the wagons are. Looking around, the materials that are in there, these two wagons belong to the shaman, who you guys never got the name of. And you get the idea that these were probably intended to keep his goods dry, and maybe his goods are not keeping as dry because you guys are like using the wagons. But anyways, that's why, because the Miota don't give a shit about the rain. It doesn't bother them at all. So they don't cover the rest of the wagons except for the ones that they need to keep dry. And by that note, that's all based on the Arcana check that you made too. Okay, alright. So on we go. I mean, you're welcome to have shared that information, obviously, with Arteme. Norok is sleeping, so...
Yeah, I probably would have.
Okay. Then in that case, Fox, if you want to look at the spell called Etherealness.
I'm looking it up where?
If you go to Library, and then Spells,
Okay.
and then you just search Etherealness. That's what the lotion does. That's what Immateria does. And not only that, but you technically have a recipe for how to make that. The ingredients that are listed are certainly hard to find, but if you were able to find some, you could make more of this stuff, potentially. It might take you a few tries, because it's a pretty difficult recipe.
Okay,
Alright.
I think that the books aren't loaded, because I can't, there's nothing in...
Okay, yeah, you would need to reload the books, but I might be able to just drop it for you. Let me see.
How do I reload the books, though?
Go to the library and then go to modules in the bottom. I just shared it to you, so you should see Etherealness pop up on your screen.
Oh, yeah, I see it.
Okay.
Okay.
And then to get the books loaded, click on library, go to modules.
Okay.
The left of the two fields at the bottom, search player, Player. And then click load on all of those.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Sarah did also tell you, by the way, assuming you shared that part too, right, Becky?
Yeah.
Okay. Sarah, you watched Sarah kind of open this jar and kind of dip her finger into this lotion stuff that's in there. It's like a thick. Um, I don't know shit about makeup. What is it? Like a cover up or a concealer or something like that. Some kind of like a thicker. A what?
Foundation.
Okay, okay, sure. So something like that, like something that's a thick enough like lotiony kind of a stuff. But you saw her kind of pull it out, and she was kind of rubbing it between the fingers of her left hand, and you kind of see that the beginning to like fade a little bit. But she mentioned to you though that if you guys tried to use this in the rain, it would probably not last for very long because the water would wash it right off again. But otherwise, you would have the effects of that etherealness spell that I dropped on there.
Okay.
Okay. But you do have the recipe for that too now, so you could presumably, with some effort and picking up the materials needed for it, you could make more of that as needed. It's not an easy thing to contain based on the stuff that's in the recipe. You know that it would spoil relatively quickly, so it's something you would need to make and then use within relatively short timing.
Okay.
Quick question.
Yeah.
Would Seraphina know if using this would make it easier for Shadowthorn to get a hold of her or do anything?
So she would know innately that there are two different rills to be concerned about there, and that the effect of this thing is not based in shadow. It's based in a different rill. So Sarah did not study the arcane arts, specifically like in a school or an organized environment where she would know the names of all of these things yet. In fact, actually, the information that she even has about Sorcanal came from mostly Ozzy. Remember? So she wouldn't necessarily know that, but she does. She is, just naturally aware of enough, even through casting Firebolt, for example, that doesn't come out of Sorcanal, stuff like that. So it wouldn't concern her, that's for sure. The effect does have a kind of a worrying initial appearance, though, because you did see your left hand begin to fade and disappear as well. But it wears off quick enough, so. All right, but continuing on down the road here, are you guys doing anything else with the marching time?
I would probably peruse the book and while using just playing with the coin.
Okay. You mean the coin of certainty, the one you guys got early on? Okay. You hadn't really paid too much attention to that coin before. Maybe this is something that when you pulled the dark steel box out, you were like, oh, there's stuff in here that I'll just play with, for this time or whatever. Maybe you kind of reached in there and spent a little more time looking at that coin and how it works. Some familiarity with how, whatever specific result you're thinking of is what pops up. So now, you'd be able to actually use it convincingly if you needed to for, tricking someone or getting, a gambling opportunity, something like that. Just having spent some time looking it over. The book, you're talking about the Vabian King's book, right?
Yeah.
It's a long treatise on one and then the next and then the next, a chronological history, and it spans about 3,000 years, which, interestingly enough, Arteme knows that, all of you know this, but humans came to the world a little over 2,300 years, a little under 2,300 years ago. And all of your species, because none of you are humans, were here long before that. And this history goes back before humans arrived. But so that basically the first histories of these, the names that are listed in the culture was a lot different back then. It wasn't a human culture. But at some point, not too long after humans arrived on the planet here, the Vabian royalty slowly transitioned into half humans. That's where actually half lings came from. They were called lings. Humans are called lings by most of the cultures. And a halfling is just a half human. That's what that word comes from. But anyway, the transition occurred over time until the rulers of Vavi were human, and then exclusively human. So that's a little bit of an interesting find for you as you're reading over this. But other than that, it's basically just the individual kind of personalities of one, and then the next, and then the next of the rulers. It does stand out that there were multiple female rulers as well. They weren't exclusively a paternal, passed on hereditary, like male, father to son, etc. That there were women rulers for Vabi as well. But there was almost this kind of ebb and flow of very strictly theocratic eras of time where the king of Vabi was considered divine, and then times where it was like the opposite, where it was a very progressive and almost, although they still had this ruler, power was reduced for them, and it was often run by a council of elders and viziers and things like that. And then after that, it would go back into another religious theocracy again, and kind of rinse and repeat. Basically, every time you got a super arrogant ruler that took over, some of them again being female, they kind of began to make it a little more autocratic and remove power from many other parts of the government, and then took over and then called themselves divine and so on. And the reason you draw this conclusion is specifically because of what it appears is happening with Adawa Khan right now. I'll put that in here again because you guys haven't seen that name for a while. Who is the current ruler of Vabi and the one that put the orders in to have all of you evicted from Al-Qadir and all of Vabi. So it's just, that seems like that's what's happening again, and having read over this 3,000-year history of this, you saw this pattern, repeat itself numerous times. Any questions on that?
Not at the moment.
Okay. Then as you guys are, the two of you are kind of, killing time, staying out of the downpour. Again, the Miotau don't seem to care, but as you guys make your way down, heading almost out of the mountains completely, the downpour grows even heavier than it had been. Let me also turn this one down a bit. I think that one's completely off now. Now can you guys hear the tinniness? Because it's really awful on my side.
Yeah.
Sounds like it's like in a box, right?
Doesn't sound too bad.
Okay.
It's on your side. Remember, it was doing it to me when we were testing the sounds too. I think whoever's running it gets it worse.
Maybe it might be. So it's probably a setting because I re-imaged my laptop too, and we tested after that G, but it was only for a second, and it sounded fine then. But I'll just dial it in a little bit after Game Before next week. But the downpour gets even heavier now, and then you're kind of coming around this final bend that you guys initially, when you ascended the mountain in the first place, you're coming around that final bend out of the Durain Peaks, and the ground is soft and muddy, and the marching hooves of the Miotau are creating this kind of constant slurping sound as they're stepping out through the muck. A few miles ahead still, though, Norak, you've woken up by now, so it's in fact, actually, let me ask that. So you've woken up, Sarah and Arteme, you guys are still in the wagon. Norak, you've woken up and still in your wagon. Are you guys getting out of the wagons? You just sitting up and, kind of checking your surroundings? What are you guys doing?
Now that I'm awake, I'm gonna get up and hop out and look around to make sure everything's okay, because he's always assuming dangers around the corner. So.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead. What are Arteme and Sarah doing?
I'm gonna sit like on the edge of the back with like my feet hanging over, but I'm not jumping down in the mud.
Okay. That sounds about right. That's just, it's just funny because she's, like just kicking her feet off the end like a little kid.
Mm-hmm.
How about Arteme?
I'd probably stay in the wagon just to not get all full of mud.
Okay. So Norak then, almost ironically similar to how you had noticed the kind of impending force of the Vabian Legion attacking the chain of dogs that was trying to escape it. You see a few miles ahead still, through this heavy downpour and frequent lightning strikes, you see the refugee chain of dogs that are balled up in one big kind of roiling circle in the center of a rocky, muddy plain, just roiling in panic and terror, and they're surrounded by crowblinders and what remains of the Miotau vanguard that was sent out earlier this morning. They're trying to defend them while being cut down themselves as a mix of Vabian Legion Backlights and Mortrulis are attacking them from all sides. the undead, basically the humans, the live soldiers, and the undead soldiers, all attacking the Crowblinders and the chain of dogs. The Crowblinders and the Miotau that came earlier, trying to defend them as best they can. Coming around the bend, though, you guys are near the front of the Miotau army at this point. You hear bellows and chorts and bull snorts that are sounding throughout the ranks all around you, and immediately you all feel the blood just simmering in these giant bovines that are obviously mentally and physically readying themselves for war. And a start on that commander's tower, that rolling commander's tower, sounds this cacophonous horn blast 3 times, and immediately the troops all around you begin triple marching upping their speed, essentially 3 times. They're tripling their speed, like they're readying to charge when a start gives them the final order. Nearby, Norak, since you hopped out, you're the only one that hopped out. A big brown bull that was walking beside the wagon, right next to the wagon you were sleeping in. He's still marching and he's snorting. You can see that the nostrils just flaring, like he's obviously kind of psyching himself up for this. He doesn't look at you, and he doesn't like. You don't think like he does. You don't get the impression that he even should notice that you're there, because his eyes are just wrapped on Astarte's tower, just waiting for something from her. But he reaches down and he grabs something from his belt and he slams it against your chest without looking at you. Like basically the back of his hand, he hits you in the chest with the back of his hand, and he's holding this horn. And you look down, it's this large curved horn that's hollowed out, and he says, "The chief ordered we give this to you. My squad, the 55th, will be near. Sound this if you need help, and we'll bull rush in your enemies, and then we'll return to formation." And he starts marching like a little bit faster, because they're moving faster than you are by now, unless you catch up, unless you keep pace or hop back in the wagon.
I'm just gonna, not too loud, say appreciate it, and tell the ladies that action is about to happen. It sounds like.
Their wagon's a little bit over, and it's raining so loud. Unless you yelled, they're not going to be able to hear you.
I'll move over that way then, and peek, open the flap a little bit and say, "Come on."
You're still probably 3 miles away, and the whole thing is the whole wagon train is moving faster to try to catch up. But basically, so mechanically how that's going to work is you were given the horn. You can give it to Sarah or Arteme if you want to, but basically whoever blows that horn, if you choose to anyways, in the battle, the beginning of the following round, Miotau will charge in a straight line 25 feet wide, trampling through any of the enemies, basically anybody that's in that range, including you guys, so don't get trampled, but it'll deal 8d10 bludgeoning and piercing damage to any creatures that are within that line.
Alright, then what I'll do is, since everybody's moving faster anyway, I will just keep a little bit of a slower pace and wait till the ladies' wagon catches up with me a bit, so that way I'm not like walking backwards,
Okay.
And then I will, when I see them, I'll let them know that there's definitely going to be a battle up ahead, so to get themselves ready, and then I'm going to give the horn to Sarah and tell her that if we need help, that the Miotau will come help with this horn. Just make sure you're not in their path. So,
okay.
I mean, make sure Arteme hears that too, of course.
Sarah, Arteme, you guys doing anything?
I don't think so, but I might give the horn to Arteme just because I seem to die a few times. So.
I was actually going to, I wasn't going to automatically imply any kind of a disadvantage there, but there's a possibility of just the basics of simple lung capacity. Sarah may not be able to sound a big-ass horn like that, for more than like a tiny little squeal, so like that may not even be something that she could potentially function, because obviously it's designed for, a lung capacity of a much larger creature.
Okay, well then, with that information, I'm like, okay, well that makes more sense. I'll hang on to this and just don't be afraid to remind me to sound it if you guys think we need it. Okay.
Sure.
Okay. Then, as the train kind of continues on towards this, as your host nears this ongoing battle that's occurring, you can see just how badly it's going. The chain refugees have been reduced to maybe 5,000 or 6,000, but when you left Al-Qadir, it was 22,000 plus of refugees. Surrounding them, the Crowblinders are clearly bloody and tired, and they're fighting alongside an already decimated Miotau vanguard, that same 200 that left earlier in the day. Once the army reaches a line, it's about a quarter mile or so from the battle, though, There's another boom from that commander's tower, and Astarte sends that horn blast up. And like a well-oiled machine, the Miotau all lower their horns like this vast organized cavalry charge, like lancers on horseback, basically. But instead, they're just 3,800-pound bulls, bull-headed males and females that just start an immediate, very intimidating and ground-shaking charge because it's all lockstep. So every boom, every hoof is hitting the ground at the same time, basically. So it's just shaking the ground like a rhythmic earthquake almost. Each of them bellowing out this ululating war cry, and within a minute and a half, a devastating line of crashes tear into and through the Vabian forces. You see bodies flying everywhere. The lucky ones are knocked out of the way and thrown through the air, but the ones that are not so lucky are just trampled over, and you see heads crushed and arms breaking, things like that, just from the weight of these beasts just running through them. Miotau everywhere, just whipping their necks left and right, just rending flesh and breaking bones. A lot of their horns you see are still adorned with disembodied limbs that have been torn off of the victims. Some of them dead, some of them having been alive at least relatively recently, from this just overwhelming bull rush. This battle joined, though the Miotau army breaks left and right, and you see them begin to swarm around the outside of the Vabian forces. So basically you have kind of this concentric circle. The outermost are the fresh Miotau soldiers you just came with that are tearing through the Vabian Backlights and Mortrillis. And those are surrounding the Crowblinders and the Miotau Vanguard, who are surrounding the refugees in the center. But the chaos of this muddy and bloody battle is highlighted by these increasingly frequent lightning crashes, until you hear an erupting, furious explosion that rocks the ground beneath your feet. And you look off to the right and you see this red-garbed Vabian mage that's standing atop this rocky bluff, and he's hurling fireballs of these just explosive heat that, with each explosion, are sending even the massive Miotau soldiers just flying through the air in all directions. And you looked off to the rock that he's standing on top of, and there's a squad of bulls, there's only 4 of them left, that are trying to climb up the muddy rocks to reach him. But the mage looks down and he holds a hand out towards them, and you see his lips move, and just as a blinding bolt of electricity snaps out of the sky and blasts through the group, it snaps from one to the next to the next. And seemingly magnified by the ceaseless downpour of rain, one of them just lays incapacitated. He collapses onto the rock, and you can see his wounds are steaming up through the rain. His skin is blackened, obviously burned by this. The rest of the squad, the 3 remaining ones, though, jump away from him and retreat around the rocks behind him to kind of break out of the mage's view so they can't see him. What are you guys doing?
Okay. First, I probably would have used 2 sorcery points to get one of my first level spells back and put up mage armor.
Okay. Go ahead and make sure you got to drag the effect over.
Ah, dang it.
That's only like the 4th or 5th time.
I keep forgetting to do that.
Cool. All right, so your skin hardens a bit from that, so you are... you know what, actually, I would say that it's an interesting effect because you probably haven't cast it too many times while you're standing in the rain, but it almost feels like it's not raining anymore, even though it's raining this hard. What are Norak and Arteme doing?
I'm going to go out towards that mage, see if I can help those Miotau. Or was that super far away? I would.
No, it's close by.
Okay, I'm going to see if I can go help those 3 that are left.
Okay.
Go around the backside or wherever they are.
I just shared you guys a map. Let me know when you have it.
It's up.
Got it.
Okay.
I don't see us, but... Oh, there we are.
Yeah, I'm dropping you guys on now. Having hopped out of the wagon and run over towards this rock, you guys are basically near a muddy rock, dry, had been dry creek bed, like a river that was no longer or had not been flowing or anything. This area is kind of a badlands of dry, or had been dry grass and everything, but the rain has made all of it. Basically, you guys see the kind of rivery shape, right?
Yeah.
So that shape, all the parts that are rivery, are thick mud now. So just keep that in mind. It looks like it'll be hard to walk through there. Go ahead and give me initiative.
Oh, man.
Come on, man.
Even without your exhaustion, you still got to roll shitty. Actually, all of you rolled really bad. Okay. So you guys see yourselves, and you guys see the dead and the mage, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Let me zoom this in a little bit. Okay, so the two rocks that you see, the kind of big rocks, the one on the right, with it looks like a little circle almost. That's where the Mio Tau we're trying to climb up, and there's a body laying there. In fact, I'll draw a little circle where. Let me just grab a token. Actually, I'll put that on there. This is going to look like a human, but it's not. It's the dead Mio Tau that fell off to the side after he got zapped. And then the Mio Tau that we're trying to help ran around the corner. They ran back here, so they're back there somewhere, back around that corner. That rock that he's standing on, where that big rock is, and then that whole kind of centerpiece, this circle area. That one, that's that big rock that's in the center of that's all raised up. The only way to get up there is to go up where that kind of circular rock is. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. And then there's that big rock that's by the mage. You see him kind of dip behind it every time it seems like there's something dangerous coming his way. And that's where we're at. So the dead that are nearby, though, seeing you guys approach, start immediately moving your direction. He's there. The mage, instantly seeing you guys trying to approach, he's up high. It's about 15 feet up, and the rocks are slick, so he doesn't necessarily feel like you're really threatening immediately, but immediately starts to murmur an incantation. Becky, make a actually make an Arcana check, and for this specific spell, make it with advantage, please. Okay. You see him pull something out of his robes, and kind of he like smears it against one hand. You can't tell what it is from this distance, but it looks like a viscous liquid of some kind. And he smears it between his hands, and then he holds one hand out and blows across it like he was blowing something towards you guys. All three of you make concentration saves. Hang on. Let me do it this way. Well, the number is not right. Let me edit this real quick. Okay. All three of you make wisdom saves, and you need to beat a 16. Shit, that sucks. Don't roll low.
So bad at wisdom. Okay. No.
This is gonna go really badly for you guys. That's hilarious. Of the three of you, I expected Noak would probably fail. Sarah would have a 50-50 shot, and that Arteme would succeed. But Noak's the only one that is not affected by this. But both Arteme and Sarah, you feel this heavy molasses-like feeling kind of settle over your skin, and your feet just feel so heavy. Like trying to trudge through this. You guys just you feel like it's going to be, not only is this going to be a tough battle, but you're like you can't even think very fast all of a sudden. Oh, and your AC is also reduced by 2. But Norak is not affected by it, and how that one works, I think it's at the end of every turn of your turns. On your turn, you can either use. Okay, so I'm gonna read it to you guys so that you know how this works. Actually, you know what? Do me a favor, Becky. Would you read it? Would you read the slow spell for me?
The whole thing, or just the end?
The part where an affected target's, from there, affected target speed is halved from then on.
Alright, affected target speed is halved. It takes a -2 penalty to AC and dexterity saving throws, and it can't use reactions. On its turn, it can use either an action or a bonus action, not both. Regardless of the creature's abilities or magic items, it can't make more than one melee attack or ranged attack during its turn. If the creature attempts to cast a spell with a casting time of 1 action, roll a d20 on an 11 or higher. The spell doesn't take effect until the creature's next turn, and the creature must use its action on that turn to complete the spell. If it can't, the spell is wasted. A creature affected by this spell makes another wisdom saving throw at the end of its turn. On a successful save, the effect ends.
Got it, Fox?
Yes.
Basically, it means
I
you
think
guys
so.
are screwed. Like, you'll be moving at half speed, your AC is screwed too. You can make one action, either bonus action or otherwise, but if you're trying to cast a spell, you have a 50-50 shot of that spell taking 2 turns to cast instead of 1. And if you somehow get incapacitated between those turns, the spell's just gone and you still lose the spell slot.
Ouch.
Yeah, but at the end of each of your turns, you can remake that save and hopefully cancel it. Also keep in mind, that is a concentration effect, and if you guys can break his concentration, the spell would drop.
Okay.
Okay? And also, you have disadvantage on dexterity checks and saves, which means that... Is it checks and saves? Saves. It's just saves.
Just
Okay.
saves.
Yeah. So a lot of his spells might have, like Fireball, for example, is a dex save, which means you'd have disadvantage on trying to avoid getting hit by his Fireball and that kind of stuff as well. Hence,
I thought it
him.
was just a -2.
No. It is. Yeah, it is. Okay. No, it is -2. It says the coding for it says disadvantage dexterity. If that comes up, just remind me so that I can modify the math on it to make sure that doesn't happen. Because the coding specifically says disadvantage on dexterity, but the spell text doesn't. So yeah, I guess it would only be the -2, which is not nearly as bad as disadvantage. So, but that's it for his turn. He throws that out there, and then seeing that you guys could potentially have like a bow or something on you, he is going to dip behind these rocks back here. He's still basically he's got half cover is what he's got. This is 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. He can make it to Sarah and is going to swing a busted, broken chunk of wood, which does hit. So you just got clubbed for 4 damage from this dead man. It is Artemis' turn.
Okay.
That one goes on a while. That effect is slow is what it is.
Okay, so wait, I can cast a spell as my action?
Yes.
But that's all I can do?
Well, you can either have an action or a bonus action for whatever. You can't have both. You basically no reactions at all. But an action or bonus action, but not both, just one or the other. And if you use that to cast a spell, actually, sorry, if it's a bonus action, then no change. You can just cast a bonus action spell and you're perfectly fine. But if it's a spell that says one action, then you have to roll a d20, basically get a 50-50 shot of it taking 2 turns to cast it instead.
Okay. I'm gonna try and do Call Lightning.
Okay. What is cast time 1 action, I assume?
Yes.
All right. Would you read me the spell? Is that too awkward for you? Okay, cool.
No. A storm cloud appears in the shape of a cylinder that is 10 feet tall with a 60-foot radius centered on a point you can see 100 feet directly above you. Spell falls if you can't see a point in the air where the storm cloud could appear.
Yeah, that's not an issue there.
Yeah, when you cast a spell, choose a point you can see within range. A bolt of lightning flashes down from the cloud to that point. Each creature within 5 feet of that point must take a dexterity saving throw. A creature takes 3d10 lightning damage on a failed save, or half as much on a successful one. On each of your turns until the spell ends, you can use your action to call down lightning in this way again, targeting the same spot or a different one.
Cool. Actually, you guys are in stormy conditions too. So if you are in outdoors in stormy conditions when you use this spell, the spell gives you control over the existing storm instead of creating a new one, and under such conditions, the spell damage increases by 1d10. Cool. And that's, I guess you can only cast it at 3rd level because it's the highest level spell slot you have. Okay. Do me a favor. Where are you making? Well, I guess first, because this is a spell that takes a full action to cast, you need to roll a d20, and you want to roll low. You want to be below. You want to be 10 or below.
Okay.
Right, Becky? It's 11 or above where it's bad, right? 11 or higher doesn't take effect. Yeah. Okay.
So.
Cool. Yeah, it says 11 or higher. The spell doesn't take effect until the next turn. But you rolled low, so you're good. Meaning there's no material component, but you murmur the necessary incantation and hold a fist up towards the sky and bring it down. Where is it that you are trying to zap?
Trying to zap the Vabian mage.
The mage? Okay. Go ahead and target the mage. Oh, you got him targeted? Okay. The spell is... It's only showing 3d10 on there. Go ahead and click the concentration effect for yourself.
Okay.
Once you click that button there, the effect that says Effect Call Lightning, there you go. And then go ahead and roll or just grab the damage dice and either double click it or drop it on him or click it since you have him targeted. All right, go ahead and roll another d10 as well, and I'll apply it. Shit, you rolled 2 10s and a 6. You rolled really high damage for that.
Which one's the D10?
It is if you counted from the left, it's the third one in. So the d20, and then a d12, and then the next one's a d10.
Okay.
For another 10? Jesus. Gonna have to kick Arteme out of the natural ones. She rolled 3 max damage and 1 6, so even the last one was above average. And also because the future rounds, since you were able to successfully get the spell off, as long as your concentration doesn't get broken, on each of your turns you can use your action to redo that automatically without like having to re-roll that chance to fail the spell. Alright, so you have that up. And each time would do that same bolt, so that's good. That it for your turn then, obviously. Are you going to move or anything?
No.
You will most likely, you can tell because the onrush of the dead that are running towards you, if you don't move, you're going to be in melee probably pretty quickly.
Okay, I'll go over here.
Okay, and that's as far as you could go anyways, because your speed is 15 feet right now because of slow.
Yeah.
Okay, number 6 gets to here and is going to try to club at Norok, which misses.
Loser.
He can't quite make it. He only makes it to there. It is Sarah's turn.
Okay, question. Did he make his
Oh, sorry. Yes, I meant to tell you that he actually rolled an 18 plus 2 for a total of 20. So he did retain concentration. Yes.
All right. Well, then I'm gonna disengage.
Okay.
10, 15. That's as far as I get. So.
Well, you'd have a diagonal. So you have 5 feet more. Because you could have gone diagonal to the southwest and then one left for 10 feet total.
Alright, so there.
Okay. Alright, Norok's turn.
Okay. I'm going to rage. Alright.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good shit. Alright, and then I'm going to whack number 6 over here.
Okay. You do... Okay,
What's up?
a quick reminder... You know what, just make a quick memory check on Norok. With advantage, actually, because it was just a recent thing. Is you kind of unsling your great axe to kind of get ready to just psyching yourself up to take a wide swing and try to hit both of these guys. And as soon as you do that, as soon as you go to reach up to grab the axe, your left elbow or the inside of your elbow bumps that horn that's hanging around your neck.
Okay.
Just reminding that you have it.
Is that a one-use kind of thing?
Well, I mean, as he told it to you, if you sound it, they'll come charging, but it's not until the next turn that they come through charging. And it's a 25-foot wide, space that they will come charging through, but it'll do potentially up to 80 damage to everything that they hit. And they'll just trample through, and then they're going to go back to the battle. The battle's happening behind you, basically to the bottom of the map. That's where the most. It's a big circle, but basically the part that you guys are close to is to the left and to the bottom of where you guys are on the map. And the mage was standing up on the rock and throwing it into the fight.
Okay, so they would be coming eventually from this southwest?
Yeah,
roughly?
basically. Well, they would probably be coming
Okay.
from the left, from the
Okay.
west, and then running through. You don't see the bull that gave it to you, but that's where basically the most of them are either basically to the bottom left of you guys. Yes.
All right then.
But they wouldn't intentionally try to run through you guys. So I mean, they would try to, move around and make the charge and then go back to the fight.
Okay, then actually, what do you guys think? Yeah, I'll go ahead and give it a blow.
Okay. Well, so blowing the horn would be a bonus action, really. I would say that you could choose to use it as your. You know what? Never mind. It's actually
Already
it's
bonused.
you did. That's what I'm saying. Is you could use it, otherwise. But technically, it's not a magic item or anything, anyways. It's just a regular item interaction, which is you can do one per turn for free, anyways, as a free action. So you could actually just reach down, blow the horn real quick, and still make an attack if you wanted to.
Okay, then I will do that.
Okay.
And then I have extra attacks, but would blowing the horn count as one of my attacks?
No.
If it does, it's fine.
No,
okay.
it's just an interaction. It's like basically like pulling a lever or picking something up off the floor, things like that. Those all you can do during your turn as a free action. Only one, but you can do one as a free action.
All right, then I'm going to see if I can hit number 6 over here.
Okay.
Is he standing right next to me?
You were not affected by slow, so you still have your full like normal effects.
Okay. Put on my Great Weapon Master and... why not? Make sure to hit. Okay.
Make the swing.
Did it miss anyway?
Yeah, you got a 5.
it.
It had you. I guess you would have had a 10 total, which still would have missed. You just rolled really shitty.
Yeah.
But your first swing, he's coming charging towards you, and he steps foot into this kind of muddy ground, and his head dips below because of the kind of loss of balance for it. He just dips below your swing. It goes right over where his shoulders were. It would have taken the head off if you had managed to connect, but because he dipped below, you missed it. Go ahead and make your second attack.
All right, and I can Great Weapon Master on both, right?
Yeah, I think you can do it on every, any attack. It's not just once per turn, is it? Let's see.
Okay. I think so.
On your turn, well, that's the critical thing. We always forget that, so just remember that you have that critical hit thing. If you ever kill somebody with a crit, you can make an extra attack as a bonus action.
Oh yeah.
Before you make a melee
before
attack.
you make an attack.
Yeah, it's not limited. So go ahead. It probably should be because it's overpowered, but is as written, that's how how it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
So go ahead. Hang on, did you put that on there twice?
Did I?
Yeah, you did. You would have had minus 10, so good thing I caught that. Go ahead.
Damn it.
Nope.
Reckless attack only works for the first attack, right?
Huh?
Reckless attack only works for the first attack, right?
Yes, I'm pretty sure we checked that one. You actually still have.
That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, first attack on your turn. Yeah, so you didn't get the advantage for the second one. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So you make one wide swing that just goes straight over his head because he dipped below, and then trying to bring it back around, you kind of look up, a little bit, trying to do an upward swing, and the rain just catches into your eye, and you end up missing completely, kind of fumbling in a very embarrassing way. Sai doing anything? Fox? Fox? Did we lose Fox?
Oh no, I can't hear anything.
Yeah, I haven't heard her for a bit.
Yeah.
Oops.
Still in Discord.
Yeah.
Ah.
I'm back.
Okay. It's your turn. Well, actually, sorry, it's Sai. Is Sai doing anything?
Not from this range.
All right. This guy's going to go to here and take another swipe with a broken piece of metal, which gets a crit on Norok. The effect is time warp. Time progresses forward for everyone frozen time except for you until the start of your next turn. So stupid. Like I need to go through this list and just remove all the dumb shit out of it.
I'll use my tribal endurance on it.
Okay. He did a total of 9 damage, so go ahead.
Okay.
Actually, 9 damage before your resistance. So, okay, so you're full health then. You basically ignored all of it.
And then I'll bash him up with the hits.
Okay, go ahead. That is your reaction, so you won't have it for any other reason. But go ahead.
And that was 8, right?
What do you mean 8?
Number 8. Martial arts
the-
number 8. I'm
What?
just making sure I hit the right one.
What are you using? Your
Reaction.
great axe?
Yeah. I'm just making sure I'm hitting the right one. Mortualist number 8 was the one that just hit me right.
Oh, I got you. I'm sorry. Yes, it was Mortalis 8. Yes, yeah.
Okay.
I thought you were asking.
Yay.
I thought you were asking about the axe or the dice to use. Nice.
Okay, good.
Well, okay. Go ahead and roll the damage on it.
Okay.
He crits you, and you just go critting right back. Well, okay. So, so just angry about your first initial misses on the other guy. He comes charging at you and swings. You just roar and shrug it off and just butt him in the face with the hilt of the great axe, not the blades of it. You just jab him in the face with it, and it just sinks right through his face because he's kind of rotted because he's dead, and out the back of his skull. And you just kind of shake it off as he slumps to the ground. The special effect was supposed to be that he'd be paralyzed for a round, but since he's dead, that kind of doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So
Sweet.
he's toast. It is the mage's turn again. He is going to peek out from behind the rock, looking down at the group of you. Actually, you see him look off to his right for a second, and like his eyes go wide, and then he looks back towards the group of you, and all of you make dex saves for me, and you need to be 14. And Sarah and Arteme, if it rolls disadvantage,
no.
yeah, for Sarah and Arteme, if it rolls disadvantage, it looks like it did. Okay. Well, okay, so I'm going to give you guys the upper effect, which is a 14, and Fox got a 12. So Sarah succeeded, Arteme failed, Norok succeeded. So
Gosh.
I'm going to roll the dice without targeting you guys, and then I'll apply it manually. 32. Okay. He steps out from behind the rock, and you already see that he's kind of swinging his arm under, like basically like an underhanded throw, like a softball throw, and kind of releases it out towards you, and you see this like a basketball-sized ball of fire aim out towards you that just balloons up in space right in front of you and explodes on the ground, covering all of you as well as these zombies actually. So they actually have to make dex saves as well. One of them failed, the other two succeeded. Okay. Let me get rid of this. For 32 to... yeah, Seraphina succeeded, Arteme failed, Norok succeeded. So a full 32 to Arteme. That's not good. Uh-oh. Fox, did you see that?
Yeah.
Ah.
That's pretty bad news. Guys, did you see what happened?
Yeah.
Concentration drop.
Yeah. That amount of damage would have been pretty hard to outroll. She would have had to beat us. Actually, it was only been a 16. Okay, so she still, could have had a good chance of beating it, but rolled too low. But the explosion blasts around you, just immediately turning all of the water in the air into just an instant boiling smoke cloud of steam as it erupts around you and blasts you guys backwards. The full 32, like I said, to Arteme, and then 16 to Sarah. Who is about half her health right now. Good thing you guys leveled up, because good thing you guys rested too, actually. And 16 to Norok. There you go. And then he is going to step behind the rock again. And you notice that he looks right back over to the right again. And as soon as he does... Oh, sorry, I didn't apply the damage to these guys. Hang on. There we go. As soon as he does, though, as soon as he starts to step behind the rock again, you guys hear just a loud stampede sound coming from the west, and a group of very large, very bloody bulls, just covered, like, skin is completely red from the blood, come charging through, running in just a straight line across, basically just directly to the north of you, running through the three remaining. The corpse off to Norok's right is obviously already dead, so that's not a concern, but 6... Oh, I got too many, hang on. There we go. Doing 42 yeah, they're toast. There's no way they can survive that. To the remaining Mortrolis that are just smashed to bits. Small parts of them still attached to the... Uh-oh. Okay. Computer locked up for a quick second. That was weird. I probably got to look at the heating for this. I'm going to run Prime 95. I'm going to go ahead and remove them off the map just to make it easier for you guys, but they are immediately wiped out as this wall of Miotau just charged through. It is Artemis' turn. There's still a battle kind of raging all the way around you guys, but you guys are just outside of the big circle.
Okay,
Oh, sorry, you guys... Both Sarah and Artemis, you guys had turns already to see if you could break the slow effect. So go ahead and roll wisdom saves, both of you, for last round.
right.
Oh, Sarah dropped. Yeah, Sarah's better, and Artemis still under the effects. Artemis got 0 luck so far this session.
Well, it was good damage though on that lightning.
That's true, but
Yeah.
then she lost the concentration. But it was,
Not
like, she
that
rolled,
terrible,
yeah,
yeah.
36 damage out of a max of 40. So, that was a really good roll.
Okay, I'm gonna do healing spirit.
Okay. Since you don't have your concentration at the moment anyway.
Yeah.
Let me get your token here. There you go. Go ahead and put it wherever you want it. Okay. And it's when you start your turn there, right?
I believe so.
And you only have... Was that action or a bonus action for Healing Spirit? That's a bonus action. Okay.
Bonus.
Okay, so that one you do not have to do the roll to see if it goes off or not. You were able to successfully just get it off. And it's just sitting there kind of waiting, I guess. So as soon as you start your next turn, or if Sarah's... You know, which actually as soon as we click over, it'll be Sarah starting her turn there. So, any
Yes.
movement or anything? You staying there?
I'm gonna move back.
Okay. That it for your turn then?
Like, yep.
All right, then it is Sarah's turn. Fox, would you go ahead and get that heal for? Roll that d6. Two extra healing for Sarah. All right, what's Sarah doing?
I'm gonna cast slow.
Okay. Fight some slow fire with some slow fire.
Uh-huh.
He rolled a 17. You beat your DC. Does anything happen on a fail?
I don't remember. Let's see.
Your DC was a
Apparently
14, so
not.
he beat it. Okay. So much for that turn and that 3rd level spell slot. You gonna move or anything else? Or you gonna stay there?
Yeah.
Oh, also keep in mind, by the way, that because that cliff is tall, if you guys were at the base of that cliff, you could potentially be breaking his line of sight. And a lot of spells require line of sight, so keep that in mind.
You're talking about like up here, right?
Yeah, exactly. If you guys are along, I'll just put a line on here for you. If you're basically along this line, he can't see you right along there, unless he comes up to the edge. Like if he comes up to the, oops, I grabbed the rock here. If he comes up to the edge and looks down, then he can, but at least, you know, initially his line of sight would be broken. Just like he's using that for cover to, you know, if you guys tried to shoot him, he'd have +5 to his AC for his, you know, chance for you guys to hit him.
Yeah. That's a bush, right?
Yep.
Okay, well, I'm gonna hide behind the bush then.
Okay. I think don't you have something where you can, like, you can hide better
Extra cover.
for being
Yeah,
little?
like half cover.
Naturally
base full cover,
stealthy.
something like that.
Yeah, it's naturally
Yeah.
stealthy. You can attempt to hide even when you're obscured only by a creature that is at least one size. We always forget about that. You can hide behind Norok.
Good.
Yeah. So yeah, but you can you know, kind of sneak yourself behind that bush to give yourself some cover, just because you're small enough. That if your turn then?
You said it's kind of dark out, right?
Yeah, it's really dark because of the rain and because of the storm clouds are so dark, and because the sun's already down below the mountains to the east.
Alright, then I'm gonna bring up my shadow knife.
Okay. Which hand is it in?
Well, it's gonna have to be in the left hand.
Which would you? Okay, would you have attempted at any point when this started occurring? It's only been that you've noticed, the last 6 hours. Well, shit, you would have had to. Yeah, you would have had to say it because you would have had to try to use a spell slot. Do you think Sarah would have attempted to try to use it with the other hand, or no?
You know what? Being in the middle of a fight, she probably wouldn't have thought about it, so she probably would have tried to use her right hand.
Okay. As long as you're, basically playing the character, honest to how you think she would think. You attempting to pull it out with your right hand just because that's how you've always done it. You pull it out and the hand feels solid as soon as you grasp the shadowy blade. Like it feels like the mage hand that you had been trying to use previously to kind of hide it. You don't need to do that. You immediately feel those fingers there and your hand feels like it's normal again. It's under the glove, so you can't see it, but like while you're holding that knife, it's as if it's been the same as always, normal. Okay, but you are holding your shadow knife and able to use it for the next turn anyways. It is Norik's turn.
Okay. Now, the water area in front of me, is that hard
It's
terrain?
muddy. Yeah, it's muddy and it's difficult terrain, so it'll be half speed. Hang on, you were... Nope. That's
I
5.
was right back here.
Yeah, that's 5 right there. So you still have... Yeah, so you have...
15, 20, right?
There you go. Yep.
Because it would be 40.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Do I have line of sight on him where I could try to hit him
No.
with a dagger or something?
No, he's 15... The rock is 15 feet tall, and you're basically at the bottom of a 15-foot cliff, and then on top of that, he's behind another, like, rocky outcropping on top of there. Yeah, you can't see him at all, but he can't see you either, so...
Then can I ready my action to throw a hand axe at him if he steps out in visual range?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, if he would need to come to the ledge and, like, look down at you for that to, for you to be able to see him, but yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
And, that's it.
Alright. Sai doing anything?
Not as of yet.
Alright. Then it is back to his turn. I would say that he recognized the mage in the group that attempted... Actually, both of you did cast spells at him. He is going to... He's gonna, because he sees the big guy kind of coming his direction, is going to step around to the edge and look down over the cliff, and immediately he's already got a hand out pointed towards you, G. You actually see his hand before you see his face coming out of it, coming out around there. Go ahead and make your attack.
Okay.
You're throwing
now,
a hand axe.
Yeah, I was gonna say he's 15 feet up, so I couldn't hit a melee. Huh?
No, he's definitely too high to hit melee.
Yeah.
But yeah, you'd have to throw your hand axe to try to hit him.
Okay.
Your hand axe goes just end over end, whipping up through the air, but you didn't have a very good angle in the first place because you're trying to throw it almost straight up. But it goes kind of whipping up past him and then comes back down and tinks off of the rocks beside you and lands on the ground next to you, well, a few feet over. But him, where he'd already begun kind of holding his hand out towards you, Sarah, you're still looking at him, right?
Yeah.
If you want to make an
I'd be picking around the bush.
Okay. If you want to make an Arcana check, you could identify, or you could at least have an idea of what he's trying to do. But he's not casting it at you. Norok, make a Constitution save, and you need to beat a 14. Okay.
Yeah, buddy.
You felt something trying to squeeze your eyes shut. Like, basically, you felt like a heavy eye pressure, like being really tired almost. And it, the effect, you kind of just, shake your head a little bit and shrug it off. Sarah, it was a blindness spell he was trying to cast on Norok.
Oh.
And he immediately... Actually, hang on, because he still has his bonus actions too, and I always forget to use them. Does he... He doesn't have any good ones, and I don't want to waste any more spell slots, so... No, that would just be too mean. Alright, I'm not going to use that one. It would be fun, but it would make you guys mad, so I'm not gonna. Alright, Artemis' turn. You were inside the healing spirit's touch, so if you want to go ahead and roll your heal for yourself as well. Fox, we forgot to roll your save again for that last turn. So, because you had that turn, remember, we had you roll it at the beginning of your turn, but you would have had one more roll at the end of that turn, and I forgot to have you do it. So go ahead and make a... Oh, that's it. You got it. It was a 14 you had to beat, so... So you are no longer slowed. You can have your full turn now.
Oh, okay.
What are you doing?
Well, I'm gonna leave this spirit up, but I will ice knife.
Use what? Ice knife?
Yes.
All right. And you don't have a chance. You don't have the failing risk this time either. What does ice knife do?
Basically I conjure a shard of ice and fling it at the enemy. So it's a ranged spell attack against the target. On the hit, the target takes 1d10 piercing damage. Hit or miss, the shard then explodes in the target and each creature within 5 feet of the point where the ice exploded must succeed on a dexterity saving throw or take 2d6 cold damage.
I forgot. That's the one you actually hit Norok with earlier in the day.
Yes.
I hit the harpy and it blew up, and Norok got some ice shrapnel. All right, go ahead and you have him targeted, so go ahead and hit the cast to see if it hits. It hits, and he failed his dex save. He rolled an 11, and your DC's 14. So go ahead and roll both damages, the 1d10 piercing and the 2d6 cold on him.
Okay.
Nice. She rolled really well on that, too. I guess the D6
At least
was
my
a 2.
attacks are doing better.
It's better than you usually get out of it. Your heals often roll a 1, your damages often roll a 1. Alright, that it for your turn?
Yeah.
Any movement or bonus actions? Healing word's a bonus action.
Back here. Yeah, I'll move them over here.
Yeah, but healing word, like you can cast healing word if you wanted to. That's a bonus action to get yourself a little bit. It's not much healing, but better than being almost dead.
Oh, yeah.
If you wanted to.
Yeah, it's a level 1 spell as well.
Okay, go ahead. I like having the auto sounds things. Just I wish I could dial them in a little easier, like go through the volume level stuff and normalized a bit, but it's kind of cool having the automatic effects in there. Okay, that it for your turn?
Yep.
Alright, it is Sarah's turn. You tried to cast slow, but it failed, so I mean you wouldn't keep the concentration up, presumably, right?
Oh, yeah, no.
Okay, there you go.
Okay. Well,
Oh, didn't I made Shadow Knife not take concentration for you, right?
yeah, and it's, yeah, no, it's not.
Okay, yeah, I thought so. He did not back up, by the way. After he threw the blind down at Norok, he did not move back. So, I mean, basically he would have had cover previously, but because he hasn't moved yet, you potentially could, try that or whatever you're going to do.
Alright, yeah. And, because you said it's dim, I get advantage, right?
If you're in shadows, you get advantage, I think, isn't it?
Shadows, or dim light, or darkness.
Yep. Yeah, you have it. And it's, well, hang on. He is 35. Well, you would presumably, okay, I'm going to leave this up to you. You need, if you're, okay, so the range, remember how the range works?
Oh, that's right, it's 30, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it's basically if you're 30, within 30, then there's a normal roll. If you're between 35 and 60, it would be a disadvantage. With your advantage, it would make it a normal roll. But if you just moved in 5 feet through it and then moved back, then you would be fine.
Okay.
Okay, well, you rolled a 19, and that does hit, so go ahead and roll your damage. All right. You see this line of shadow. Basically, when you throw it, it doesn't even throw like a knife. It just kind of turns into this like a beam of light, except shadow in this case, that just sails through the air and then kind of collapses in on itself and hits him square in the chest. He looks down and he's kind of like in shock as if this was a physical thing that hit him, and then it begins to disappear as it kind of soaks into him a bit. He obviously looks... he's actually pretty badly injured already anyways, but that looks like it actually hurt him quite a bit. Any bonus actions or anything?
A bonus action to bring it back in my hand,
Okay.
and then I'm just step it
And then
back
jump
in
back behind the bush. Okay. You were also in... Fox, I didn't notice. Did you move the healing spirit already? Was Sarah in the healing spirit when she started her turn?
I think I was like
yeah,
there.
I- yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, neither of you are tech... you know what, actually... Do you have to be inside of it, or is it the surroundings of it? Fox, do you remember?
The rounding is a bit.
Does it have a radius around it or anything, or do you have to... No, because you have to walk through it, is how most people play it. So you'd have to actually be touching it, yeah. So, like, where Sarah moved to...
It has a 5-foot cube.
Yeah, so you have to be in her
It's a
space, then.
5-foot cube.
Okay. So where Sarah is now would be good, but you're not close enough on your own, Artemi.
Oh, okay.
So, would you have moved... Because, I mean, you could have moved after your thing dropped. Would you have moved into it where you moved her to? Yeah, like,
Yeah.
okay. So that's fine if you wanted to go ahead and
Like,
move
I was
yourself.
trying to move us both, but not have it to where she couldn't move her own icon.
Gotcha. Okay. Yep, that's good just like that. So you'll still have it when your turn comes. All right, Norok's turn. What are you doing, G? Ben?
Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you now.
Okay. Yes, that's muted. Since that's rock's 15, I'm about 7.5 feet tall. If I jump, can I climb up that rock, or do I have to move around to the backside of it?
Make a perception check.
Okay.
Looking at the rocks, this rain is pouring down so much and it's so muddy. Like, you could give it a shot, but you being able to climb up that, especially with him standing right above you like that, or their odds are not going to be very good. It's really slippery.
Okay.
But he is still standing on the edge.
All right. I guess I could try that. What if I jumped and tried to hit him in the leg with my axe? If I jumped, I'd be able to whack him. I know I'm gonna have some kind of disadvantage. But
Like an action RPG style, like
Hell yeah.
like a Zelda
Tactics.
or something.
Yeah.
We'll give it a shot. Go ahead and make a. It's gonna be. It's gonna be 2 rolls. You need to succeed on the attack roll, and 2 you need to succeed on an athletics check to kind of jump in an angle enough that would be advantageous enough to be able to reach him with your great axe. So go ahead and make
Okay.
an athletics check first. You'll be able to get the height. It's just a matter of getting the angle right. Okay, you're able to jump high enough. You dropped a 1, so it's a good thing you have your rage up, because that's, it gave you advantage because of the rage. So, all right, go ahead and make the attack swing. And you can do Great Weapon Master, all that stuff if you want.
See if I can take a leg off.
He's pretty badly wounded. You might be able to. Nope.
No.
Oh, that's funny. You with
I-
the -5,
do
you
I-
actually dropped a 5, so neither of the rolls would have made it. What's that?
Do I need to do another athletics check?
Yep,
with
you're
my
gonna have to
extra
you're gonna have to
attack?
try to jump again to get the
Yeah.
attack off. I probably should have just made it where you make one, like your jump would have given you one attempt to swing, like the jump would be the other attack essentially. But cool, yeah, you get another jump off. I would say you probably actually the first time you kind of jump onto some rocks at the base of this just to give you a little extra height. So this one being a little bit easier for the jump. Go ahead and make the second attack.
Damn it.
Jeez, Nork is
I'm almost
useless for
getting
this
those
fight.
feet. Jeez.
That if your turn then? You still have your movement. You can try. It's not opportunity attack because he can't reach you. So,
All right.
so I mean, if you can still move 20 feet actually, because you're half movement through the mud here, so you can actually make it to the rocks.
Okay.
There you go. And now you. Oops, I just turned the rocks, not you. Damn it. All right, I'm just gonna, now that you know where that is, I'm just gonna remove the rock.
Yeah, okay.
There you go. Since you don't remember to turn your token. But you are off of the muddy ground at this point. You're on, like, rocks. So you can, you won't have the half movement, basically, because you're out of the mud now. Okay. That's it. Fox Eye's just moving over to you.
Yep.
Okay. The mage, seeing the very angry-looking Yogg coming his direction, is... Huh. Let's see. He is going to... He comes walking directly towards you. He looks a lot more confident than you are. That kind of bothers you a little bit that he looks so confident walking towards, a big raging Yogg for Norok. And he holds both hands out towards you in this kind of fan, this kind of spinning motion with his hands. Make a Constitution save on Norok, and you need to beat a 16. God damn it! You feel there is this just massive boom. This is so loud that it would probably rattle your eardrums. This booming sound that immediately all of the rainfall stops in this kind of bubble above you, like you're inside of this big bubble that surrounds. It just goes over you and surrounds you, and the rain is just kind of bouncing off of this and going around almost like a shield around you for just this briefest second as this explosion wraps around you. Sarah was watching, probably could have identified it if you cared to, but he tried to throw this spell at you that you were able to just kind of hold yourself still, but you definitely felt that it was going to push you back and knock you back into the mud. But he attempts it. It does not succeed, and he turns, and you see panic in his eyes, and he goes rushing around the corner here. You can get to about here, and that's it. You see him disappear behind the rock.
Okay.
Artemis' turn. None of you guys have counterspell, do you? No, you don't.
No, that's the next one I'm gonna get.
Is it? What's Artemis gonna do?
Either that or slow.
Slow's a really good choice. You just rolled crappy this time, and it was only one target, so.
I'm gonna use my sharp bow.
Okay.
Try and hit the mage from here.
He has cover where he's at, so he's gonna have +5 to his AC.
Okay.
But you can still give it a shot. He's basically to hit him, you kind of have to weave it between some rocks, and it's going to be a little harder to hit him.
Okay.
You do also notice, by the way, that there's a certain rippling on his skin anyways. You don't recognize what it is, but you've seen it on Sarah before. I'm telling you that his AC is already boosted because of a spell effect that he has on himself, and then he is going to have, basically, for you to be able to hit it, it's going to be a pretty hard shot. Like you can tell just from the aim. But you do have your Elven accuracy, so you would have a triple... oh shit, never mind, you don't have advantage on it at the moment. Because, like, Sai's not up there distracting him or anything. So, never mind.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, how do I use the bow?
Target him and then double-click the black dice. The one that says it's a black dice and it says +5. There you go.
Oh, okay.
You actually hit him. That's basically, you needed a 20 or higher, which is really high. So I mean, you actually managed to pull the shot off, which is,
okay.
I didn't expect you to actually be able to hit him because it's so high. Go ahead and hit him with the damage. There you go. He's kind of not looking at you. He was like, you guys can actually see this, Norok can't. He was actually peeking over that edge over there, like looking down, trying to see if there's a way that he could jump down on this side without, breaking his legs, basically, and then get away, because he saw the Yogg kind of running towards him, and he unsuccessfully tried to knock him back. So he's not looking at you, he's not paying attention, he's kind of peeking over the edge, and your arrow kind of sails up over the cliff edge there, and hits him square in his left shoulder. So he's got an arrow sticking out of his left shoulder, and he just looks like there's clear panic starting to cross his features. Any bonus actions or anything?
Nope.
Okay. And it is Sarah's turn, unless you're going to move or anything. Fox?
No.
Okay. Sarah's turn.
Okay, looking around, how does the rest of the battle look like it's going? Like, does it look like it's dying down? Or
It is. It's like there's the center. Okay, so I described it as concentric circles, right? The outer circle is the Miotao army that just attacked. Then you have the Vabian army in the middle, the bad guys. Then you have more good guys in the middle, and they're basically the bad guys are being consumed from both sides, largely from the outside. The Miotao army charged through them and just decimated them, and it's looking like the good guys are winning so far.
Alright, well then I'm gonna use my last 3rd level slot and try slow again.
Okay. Make sure you can only move half his speed when he's falling down the side of the cliff.
And hopefully he can't cast a spell.
All right, so he roll. You know what? I'm gonna let you roll this of whether he would have noticed you starting to cast a spell or not. So I'm just gonna give you a chance to roll a flat d20, and you want to roll high. You want to be above a 10, just a flat 10, just to see if he would look at it. Okay. He. After getting hit in the shoulder, is looking over his left shoulder and sees you kind of behind this bush down there. What's the range on this? Hang on, let me see. You might still be safe.
120.
Okay, so you're not gonna like this. The range that I was looking for is well, so you pull out the molasses, you kind of rub it between your fingers, and you try to, or rub it between your hands rather, and you try to blow the kind of material up towards him, and he instantly, since he was already looking your direction, he holds two fingers out in your direction as if kind of like intercepting it, and you see him snap his fingers, and the effect ends instantly. He was within 55 feet, and the range on counterspell is 60 feet.
Oh my god.
And since it was a 3rd level spell, he can just cancel it using his 3rd level spell. So, but he is now out of 3rd level slots, so if that helps you guys any.
Nope, so am I.
Sorry, I didn't want to make it hard for you guys, but I want to make it fun, you know. So it's still like it's fair in that what the guy would try to do. Norak, you couldn't see him, but you did know that he was around the rock. So you come kind of around the rock and you see him having actually just looked this way, but he hears you stumbling around. He just doesn't have time to kind of turn at you as he had just canceled Seraphina's spell.
Alright. Let's see if I can chop him down.
See if you can actually make an attack or hit this time.
For the first time.
Yep. It would literally be the first time this fight that you got to hit it. Oh, actually, no. Your return.
No, I got one of those.
Yeah, you did. With a crit too, actually.
There we go.
Hey, finally it hits.
That should be enough to finish him off. 10. Yep. Bye-bye.
So him not facing your direction, you come kind of just in a rage, come charging around the corner and swinging your great axe like a baseball bat, just a wide swing. Already, like the arc of the swing already started as you kind of pivot around the rock. Goes just cleaving the axe straight through his neck, and your axe kind of dings into the rock. You know that's going to chip the blade, but the head comes almost completely separated from the shoulders, and there's just no. You're hitting him from the back anyways. You don't see his face, but there's definitely no surviving that kind of a swing. He is toast.
I'm going to pick up my axe up on the ridge that I threw.
Okay. It was down on the side, so you would have already picked it up.
Okay.
It fell back down.
Becky's getting a message on here to a little pop-up that says copy to clipboard and says runtime error over and over again every time she tries.
Yeah, so that's I was getting that too. I think it's because I have too many images. That's what happens when I was telling you about it before, where when we were playing in the other game, that I get that error and then the map will break and I can't interact with the map anymore. So she's getting the same thing. It's probably because I have too many images loaded, because every once in a while, if I have too many tokens and too many maps and things like that, or if you make your maps too big, that's what will happen sometimes. So okay. That's all, but it's okay, because you just finished the fight anyways now. So, all right. So that being done and him being toast, looking around like Sarah had already started to look around. I guess what are you guys doing? Because you're standing up on top of the cliff, so you can actually see out all the way to the center where the chain is, all the refugees.
Yeah, I'm looking to see what the most advantageous point is to go help.
Okay.
I finished healing up.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
if Sarah and Arteme are standing in the Norak, you could make it down most of the way to maybe get a couple of rolls of it, but Sarah and
Okay.
Arteme, you both can just stand in it, so you can just heal yourself. I'll just go ahead and remove them for you, Fox. Unless you want to keep, unless you want to see how many ones you can roll. Ones and twos, actually. Hey, there's a 5. All right. But Norak, before you had jumped down, though, as the mage falls, you look around this just sea of bodies where the Miotau have carved their way through the Vabian Legion, and then joined with the Crowblinders in the middle. The Legion has largely been routed. There's many that are attempting to flee, but it's pretty much in vain because there's just so many. The Horned Warriors and the Crowblinders, either an arrow will hit one of them in the back as they're trying to run, or one of the Miotau will trample them. You see, or over the noise of this, as this battle is clearly coming to an end around you, it was all over just in a matter of 30 seconds. The whole thing just because this charge of the Miotau coming through just eviscerated what this clearly wasn't a large force. This was just the kind of skirmishing, havocing force that was attacking the Crowblinders, and the Miotau just ran over them. But you guys hear an arcanically loud and amplified male voice that echoes throughout the rain, through the pouring rain. Sarah, you recognize it because you've spoken to him a bit more than the others. You recognize that it's Pepperjack's voice coming through the noise of the battle, and he shouts over the whole crowd with this kind of arcanically increased noise. He yells, "Chain, regroup. We march north, double time. We must reach the walls of Dunskathak before the Legion can regroup." And at that, the Miotau mercenary soldiers all raise their weapons high in the downpour, some of them still cutting down some of the Vabian Legion, some of them kind of going through bodies and poking just to make sure that the dead are actually fully dead and not getting back up again. And they, all of the Miotau warriors just bellow out this just ululating, booming noise of this cheering, victorious war cry. And then they begin this kind of lockstep forward over the ground that is covered with more dead Vabian flesh than it is mud at this point. And they begin marching north. You can't see the ruins from here, but you know that that's where you guys are headed from what he had said, is that you guys are heading towards some ancient Mephuin ruins. You guys falling in line? Do anything else before? This is actually where we'll be ending the session anyways, because like I said, it was totally my fault. I just didn't get enough prep done this week.
I don't think so. Okay, here.
My spell effect would probably drop, but that's about it.
Yeah, that'd end because you guys, over time. Sarah's mage armor stays up. Shadow Knife is how long? The minute?
Minute, I think.
Okay. Shadow Knife fades, and you feel as the knife in your hand kind of begins to recede back down towards the wrist. It keeps receding down until it's hitting the middle of your palm. You understand?
Wait, so I can feel from like half of my palm then?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that you caught specifically what that meant, because Sarah hadn't noticed it before, and this was the first time that she would have had a tangible, physical representation of it. That you could actually feel the effect of it. Does that make sense? That basically,
Yeah.
Becky knew it already, but Sarah definitely does now. Okay. All right, then you guys kind of fall in line with the rest of the Miotau soldiers and the Crowblinders, along with what refugees are left, and begin kind of rushing as fast as you can towards the Mephuin ruin. It's called Dunskathak. That's where you guys will be going next week, unless you decide to break off from the Crowblinders. That's where you'll be heading. And that is it for today, guys.
Cool. Good stuff.